Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rachita Mishra speaking to you. So today in our software engineering course, we will look into product, process and project management issues. We will start with the four aspects of the management spectrum and we will elaborate on the product, process and project aspects in the management spectrum. And we'll look into the project failures and discuss on a common sense approach to have a successful project. Then we will look into the W5HH principle for defining the key characteristics. So we have seen this slide in the previous lesson. We have said that all the software project management activities, when you take all the activities in the activity spectrum, you can categorize it into four types of activities, four types of project management activities. Those that need attention to people, those that need attention to product, those that need attention to process, and the others that require the overall project attention. So in the previous session, we had seen all the people issues regarding the work design, the team is correct, organization and motivation type of people that we have already discussed. In this lesson, we will be discussing on the product, the process and the project issues. So going to the product aspect, the first thing that we need to ensure that a project manager has to ensure is that the software project scope that must be unambiguous and understandable at the management level as well as technical level. So all the levels we should know what is the scope that we have to cover in the project, or what is the product scope that is within the which is within the project. So the software scores is determined by the following considerations: the context, the information objective, and the function or the performance of the software product. How does the intended software fit into the larger system, product or business context, and what are the constraints coming from the context? So where we are going to, when we develop the product, the software product, where it is going to get fitted in the business context. That is what is the meaning of the context, and in this context we have to see what is the scope of the software. So there may be, when we discuss with the business, we will find that to satisfy the business need, the software is not everything. The software has certain scope, and there may be something more that the business has to do from their side. So from when you see the overall project from the business point of view, there may be something, some marketing work, some operational work, but the software scope doesn't include this. So we have to be very clear about this context. What are the other things, that is the business context in which it will fit. So what is the other aspects that has to be satisfied when our software will be completed and delivered. Second thing is the information objectives. So when the software is visible to the customer, what are those visible data objects that they will produce out as the output from the software, and what are those data objects that they will enter, that they will input to the software. That is the information objective. That means how the input data, what are those input data and how it is getting transformed to the output data. And that is also part of the our product characteristics or the product, and also part of the product scope. And so last one is the function and the performance. What kind of function the software will achieve in transforming the input data to the output. When it is doing this processing, what is the kind of function it is satisfying, which is related to their business, and whether any special performance characteristics is to be addressed. So when they are going to do this business function by using this software, then what is the kind of performance characteristics they are expecting. It could be about speed, it could be about data, it could be about data, the amount of data that they want to store, whether they want to archive it, or any other. That means when it will be operational, what is the time, what is the kind of environment where people will be using it, what is the maximum load, what is the minimum load, what is the average load. So these are some of the characteristics that has to be understood regarding the performance of the software, which will also be part of the our software scope. So these are the three areas in which we have to elaborate and to determine the software scope. It is sometimes we think that software scope is only the functionality, but actually we have so many different things. So when we do that product, so first thing we do when we understand those three things, one of the major thing that we do in the problem description, once we have completed the scope, what we do is we do a decomposition. Why we do the decomposition? Because it will help us in making planning of all the complete planning that we will do for all activities and all work products will be easier if you have the scope decomposed. Or in other words, you have to, whatever is your problem description, that you have to decompose. And we have seen in our design lessons that this is nothing but the partitioning or the elaboration. So decomposition is applied in two areas. One is in the problem area, that is the product area, which deals with the functionality of the product that must be delivered. And this kind of partitioning we have seen results in modules. As we have discussed in our design classes, the outcome of the decomposition of the functionality of the software or the product is modules. Another kind of decomposition that will happen is in the process, which we will be discussing subsequently, and that is delivering us tasks. That means all the activities in the process we will decompose it. This we will come to it, and this part we have already done in the design. So now since we are in the problem or in the product aspect, so we will deal with the functionality. So once the scope is defined, it will be decomposed into constituent functions, and it is decomposed into user visible data objects and also into a set of problem classes. So either we will do it if we are doing data oriented or structured methodology, then we will take the data and the data flow. Otherwise we will do the class oriented kind of decomposition. So we will get these modules by doing this decomposition. So decomposition process continues until all functions or problem classes have been defined. So we will keep on breaking it hierarchically until we have exhausted all the functions, and also we have gone to the very lower level where all the problem classes are defined. Then we come to the process. This is the third aspect. And similarly, first at the time of the process, just like we did the scope and then we broke it, here what we will do, our first chance is to choose a process model. We have covered the process model in our very initial sessions, initial lessons, and we have to look at the characteristic of the product and the customers, what is their culture, the developers, what they are used to, then what is the project development environment, what is the kind of technical environment as well as the organizational environment that the project has to be carried out. So these kind of characteristics of the project we have to study to decide which kind of process model we will choose out of the many available process models, the waterfall models, the iterative models, the incremental models, the spiral model, agile models. So there are so many models available. So we have to study the characteristics of the model of the project and its environment, and we have to choose the process model. That should be the first part in our process aspect of the project management. Then once the project manager has chosen the process model or the team has chosen the process model, then the framework is fixed. So within that framework, now we have to again go back to the project characteristics and see what is the thoroughness required for both the kind of work that output we have to give, work output we have to give, how what will be the detailing of the work product that the customer would like to see, and at what detail level we will like to do the quality assurance. So these thoroughness will be, is the degree of thoroughness is what is the detail that we will like to know. And also, and by looking at these two things, what we will do, we will define the task set for each software engineering activity. So activities are part of the framework. Within that framework, we have to decide the task sets, and the task set will consist of the engineering tasks, the work products that will come out. That's why I said how, what is the level of the work product we have to produce and provide either to the next activity or to the customer, the quality assurance activity, what point we will do, and the milestones that we will achieve, which is used for our monitoring of the project. So when we consider the tasks or the task set, we have to take care of all these four things. So what is happening here? The process model is being chosen, and within that process model we have a activity framework, and for that activity we are breaking it into a set of tasks. So this is the process recomposition. Process recomposition begins when the project manager tries to determine how to accomplish each activity. So in the activities available in the framework, now we are decomposing it into relatively some simple tasks, work tasks. So, this is an example. A small, relatively simple project might require the following work tasks for the communication activity, only for the communication activity. Similarly, there will be so many activities in the project. For each activity, we have to determine the work tasks. That may be engineering, there may be project communication, there may be other project management activities, or there may be communication with the customer for getting the requirements engineering. So, so let's look at this. Develop list of clarification issues. Meet the customer to address clarification issues. Jointly develop a statement of scope. Review the statement of scope with all concerned. Modify the statement of scope as required. So as you can see from this example, it is definitely the first activity in our process model, which is the communication phase, which happens as a collaboration between the team, the project team, and the customer. And what is the objective? The objective is to redefine the scope and determine all the functional requirements inside within that scope. So that communication activity is a very high level activity within the process framework or the process model. So these could be some of the smaller tasks that we have to do to satisfy. So this is an example of how a process is decomposed, or in other words, an activity is decomposed into tasks. Now what we have to do, we have done the product decomposition into smaller modules or classes, and we have done, so this is based on the functionality or the features or the other aspects, the functional aspects of the behavior of the product, software product. And then we have the process model, which we have taken and we have decomposed it into tasks. Now we have to do what we have to do, we have to keep mapping it, we have to combine it. So project planning begins by associating the product functions with activities in the process. So the product function, each product function, we have to associate it into activity. Then we have to go to lower level. Each function to be engineered will get completed only when it completes a certain set of activities in the process framework defined for the software organization of the project. So for each function, there will be, it will have to go through the set of activities in the framework. Then only the work product will be completed. And the job of the project manager is to estimate the resources required for these set of activities that accomplish each function of the intended software. So we have to determine the number of the effort that will be required, and what is the type of resources those will be assigned to this. So that kind of estimation has to be done before we do the project planning. And in other words, the effort and resources required to produce each work product is to be estimated using the activities associated with that particular work product. So whatever work product we have divided our software product, each one has to go through the set of activities and the set of tasks so that it will be completed. And for each of these tasks or the activities, we have to determine the effort, and then we have to see what is the kind of resources it will require. So that will form the foundation of the project planning. Then you come to the fourth one, that is the project aspect in the management spectrum. Now, to be able to manage a project successfully, first let us look at the reasons for the software project failures. So because now we have seen the people aspect, the product aspect, the process aspect. So the project aspect will be the overall project management aspect. So there could be several reasons. For example, software team members don't understand their customers' need. The product scope is poorly defined. Changes are not managed properly. Technology chosen for implementation often changes. So this is at a lower level. What we had seen earlier was at a higher level. If you remember, we had a similar slide earlier for project failures that was at a very higher level. Now we are looking into specific project, and we are trying to, that was on a common general level. Now we are looking into the specific project and seeing what can go wrong. So software team members don't understand their customers' need. There is a mismatch of communication or knowledge, and the product scope is poorly defined because customers don't know how to do it, or maybe the process has failed, the communication has failed, activities are not properly defined, and therefore it could not be done properly. Changes are not managed properly. So when the requirement changes are coming, they are not being managed properly. The technology chosen for the implementation often changes. So while we are doing the project, sometimes there will be new versions of the technology, or something will not get supported. So technology change will also have to be managed. So this could be a reason for failure. Business needs change, or they are not well defined, they are ill defined. Deadlines for the project completion are unrealistic, that we have seen earlier also. Deadlines, that means the time schedule are not very correct. They cannot be achieved. They are unachievable, unrealistic schedules have been given. Users are resistant, they don't cooperate. So users are not very cooperative. They don't understand the need of the software team. So they don't provide the right thing at the right time. Or maybe they are not available also. And the sponsorship, that is the funding that is given, is lost. So initially it was promised, but on the halfway it is lost. The project team lacks people with appropriate skills. This is a very often encountered scenario, that you have started a project, but you are not getting the right skill. So you are being asked to take some skill who is available and train them, retrain them, and use them. Managers and practitioners avoid the best practices and lessons learned. So the kind of lessons learned and the best practices that is already available in the project database of the organization, that is not being seen, that is not being consulted with. When the managers and the practitioners, that means the software team, is doing the work, they don't look at it. So what happens if there is a mistake that you have done in the previous project, it gets repeated. So the lessons learned are not taken into account, or if there is some good practice, that is not followed. So these could be some of the project failures. So the project manager has to be very conscious, even the software team has to be conscious that these are the possible scenarios that can happen for which their project can go wrong, even though they have the best intention to make it right. So generally, people give a common sense approach to start the project, to go see that the project is goes in the right way. So start on the right foot. That means work hard. That will make all the efforts. They give you a best foot to understand the problem. So the starting has to be very good. And if the starting is good, then it will be easier to move ahead. So the lot of effort has to be put in the beginning to understand the problem, and that is to be solved, and then setting realistic objectives and expectations. Expectation is something that deals with the user's expectation has to be set. User should not be in some they should not have some myths with them, so they have to be told very squarely what can be achieved and what cannot be achieved. So expectation setting with the stakeholders is an important thing when you start. It's a very common sense approach, but sometimes common sense also we don't use. Sometimes we common sense, so we make mistakes. So that is why it is stated that so that we know it, we are aware of it, and we will not miss it. So we have to take a lot of effort to do the starting of the project very well, in understanding the problem and making the expectations right, and understanding their objectives. Objectives have to be realistic and not non-achievable type. Then we have to go to, when we start it right, then we have to go to the next step, maintain the momentum. So once you have done a good start, we should not slow down. We should continue the movement. The good effort that we have done during the beginning has to continue. The project manager should provide incentives to keep the motivation high. The motivation of the team should always be high so that they always continue to give their best effort, and the momentum of the progress of the project continues with a constant speed. And the turnover means people leaving the project. So the turnover should be low. If the motivation is high, the turnover will be low. The quality should be in focus for all the tasks. When we do the project, when we this is now in the execution phase, so it has to be, quality should be focused, and senior management should keep away. They should not interfere. If they interfere, then the team will not be able to concentrate on their tasks, their engineering tasks, and also the quality. So this is a very common sense method that they are recommending. Next, when you do the project, you have to track the progress, because otherwise you will not know where you are. So for a software project, progress is tracked as work products, and are produced and approved using the QA activities of formal technical reviews and testing. So what is going to be tracked? The work products. What is the progress on the work products? Where they are, what is their status, and how good they are, whether they were completed in time or not. So those could be your our models, design analysis models or design models. Those could be the source code that we produce at the construction phase. That could be test cases that we produce for the testing, or it could be test results. So those are all the individual work products that comes out of the activities of the process in the project. And as and when they are produced, not only that we have to track the progress, we also have to see that the QA points, that the QA activities are also being done, are being performed in the form of in a formal way. So there are many formal techniques. There are reviews and also testing. So these two formal QA activity are being properly done, and the work products are getting approved by the specific QA agencies. And different, it could be either independent QA or it could be the customer. Different types of measurements are taken. At the time that we are executing, we have to track the progress. So to be able to quantitatively track the progress, we have to take some measurements relating to project, relating to process, relating to product, that we will see. And metrics are compared. So what is the difference between measurement and metrics? Measurements are direct data, that is observation, whereas metrics are something that is derived from the measurements, which gives you some indicators about the status or about the state of the particular performance criteria. So performance criteria of the project execution, not the end product. We are talking here of the progress of the project. So why do we need it? Because if we do this, then what we can do, we have certain organizational capability and organizational attainment or goals. So because we have organizational goals which are average attainments over all the projects, we can compare how the project is doing against the organizational goals, because we want to be either complying to the organizational goals, or we should be better than the organizational goals. So this is the functionality, this is the kind of work that we do during the progress tracking. So this should be done in the project management. Then we have to make smart decisions. That means we have to make the right decisions in the right time. And decisions of the project manager and the software team should be simple. So when we do the simple decisions, we have to see that there is no pressure on the team, so that we are trying to reduce the effort and for the tasks. And to do that, we have to look for off-the-shelf software or patterns. So these are like utilities libraries, or certain modules that are available to plug it in, because nowadays we talk of plug and play. So these can be plugged into our solutions. And if we have these patterns, then these are patterns are already already solutions. They are already defined how to solve it. So we can use for problem solving, we can use patterns. For our design and construction, we can use off-the-shelf software or library utilities. So all the reusable kind of components that is available, or solutions that is available, we have to see that they are used during the product development or the design, and so that the design and coding will be very simple, and the effort will be reduced, the pressure on the team will be less. So that is what is the meaning of making smart decisions. Conduct a post-mortem analysis. So when we are doing everything, we have to also have a consistent mechanism for extracting lessons learned for each project. So at the end of the project, we know what we have done good and what we have done not so good. So that whatever we have not done not so good, we have to understand what went wrong, and what is the kind of what went wrong, what is the incorrect thing we have done. So that is known as the lessons learned. And evaluate the planned and actual schedule. We have to because earlier we had the planned schedule, now we have the actual schedule. So we have to compare it, we have to evaluate these two, how good they were. And so we will know whether our planning, our estimation went correct or not. Collect the customer feedback, how the customer feels about our product or the process, and analyze the metrics of the project. So whatever metrics we have collected, we have computed, that we have to analyze it at the end of the project. The project's postmortem analysis should be a formal and in written form. It should be a document or models or something, so which can be viewed in a written form, and it can be saved. And the repository used to store such information of all projects of a software organization, normally called the project database. So these things, the postmortem analysis report with all this kind of details will go into the project database. And what is the need of this? Because we have said that we will have to use the best practices and the lessons learned. So unless the past project history is kept very properly analyzed and in a proper format, we will not be able to reuse that experience of the past project. So this is all what is known as the common sense approach to do effective project management. Then there is something else which is suggested by Barry Boehm, which is called W5HH, which addresses project objectives, schedules, milestones, responsibilities, management technical approaches, and the required resources. So almost many of the areas of the project management it has touched. It is named W5HH based on the series of questions that helps in defining the key characteristics of the project. So here Barry Boehm is saying that you try to pose this series of questions and you try to get the answers. And the answers of these questions will determine the characteristics of the project, so that you will know about these things, these kind of things you will know how to address these things, which are important key key items of the project. And this is applicable to all types of softwares, whether it is whatever is the size or the complexity, because it is a very simple approach. So what it says, it is called W5HH because there are 5 questions which start with W and there are 2 questions which start with H. So that is very easy for all of us to remember. So why is the system being developed? So this is the first question, we have to get it answered. So this question will enable us, all the parties, to assess the validity of the business reasons for the software. Why is it being accepted? Is it going to give solve the problem, business problem? Is it going to give the business benefits that is required? Is it what is expected out of the senior management? Will it give some marketing benefit? So all these kind of things will get answered here, and the objective of the product or the system will get finalized. What will be done? It helps establish the task set that will be required for the project to produce the product. So when you do this, answer this question, so you will try to understand. From this objective, you will take the scope and you will determine the tasks. When will it be done? So this will address some of your milestone, project schedule and the milestone requirements. Then who is responsible for a function? It helps in assigning roles and responsibility to each member. So when you have done the decomposition of the task and you also have got the timeline, so now you have to assign the responsibility to the people. So who is responsible for each function? Where are they organizationally located? So how is the stakeholders, different stakeholders, how are they located? Because this is required for your different type of communications and collaborations. The customer and end user and other stakeholders who are external to the project team may not be all co-located with the software team. These externally located people also have responsibility. So that responsibility and how they will carry out their responsibility, also that has to be answered. That has to be predetermined when you start answering this question. So that aspect also will get clarified. How will the job be done technically and managerially? The management and technical strategies and the processes will be getting defined when we answer this question. And how much of each resource is needed? This is answered by developing the detailed estimation of all the tasks and for all the work products and assigning the resources required for the tasks. That when you do, then you get answer to this. So by doing this, you can really do a very low level, detailed level planning as scheduling, assign the responsibilities so that the project will be properly managed. Apart from the common sense approach, we have this W5HH approach to do the project management, considering all the 4 aspects of the project management spectrum. So now we come to the last slide. Let's summarize what we discussed today. We started with the management spectrum, which gave focus to 4 type of items, that is people, product, process and project. And the people was already discussed in a previous lesson. So here in this lesson we discussed the product, process and the project related management activities and its concerns. And the common causes for the project failure was examined. And looking at the project failure, how to do the successful project, that was the question. So we have seen 2 methods. One is a 5-part common sense approach for the project. So if we follow this, then we can expect that our project will be successful. And also we discussed the W5HH principle for getting all relevant information regarding the project. So the characteristic of the project is determined, and so that we can do a right start of the project. From the very beginning, we have all the informations with us to do the project management successfully and deliver the right quality of the product as per the expectations and the requirement. So thank you all. We have completed the project management concepts and also the 4 aspects of software project management, and we have gone into the details of it and discussed the issues, and we have given some recommended approaches. Thank you all, and in the next class we will go into other kinds of management activities.